Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
And we continue and complete our coverage of Best Served Cold, Joe's first standalone and the next First Law entry after the original trilogy. And on this episode, we review Seeds, All Change, and Happy Endings. So let's get started. You already know the deal by now, folks. We're going to thank you until you beg us to stop. All right? What is it? The thanking will stop when morale improves.
That's right. Until we get messages saying you guys have heard enough, we're going to keep thanking you.
We're going to keep saying it. We're going to make your ears bleed. We're going to explode your soul with
love,
gratitude. Right, George? Say something. You're the arch-lector. You're the propagandist. You're the face.
He's getting tired of having to say something. You're fatiguing him.
He's getting tired of having to address these rebellions and revolts. He's at his wit's end. He's also half asleep. So let's go ahead and we'll start off with our first segment, which is going to be our first chapter read through. And this is Seeds. Who else can we start with but our girl? Oh, Monzi. Monzi Mercado. And she is
fucking Monzi.
Monzi.
Mon.
Mon.
I will miss you, Mon. We won't get to make fun of your name anymore. I love Joe's unique names like this, though. Sometimes they stick great, like Monza, and other times they're not very good.
Give me one that's not very good.
What's that? There's so many guys. Come on.
Shitter?
Stone Shitter's
It's all
up
the
there.
guys with just like the regular names, like the name is just like an object.
Like a passerby.
Yeah.
Like Potlick or whatever. I think it's like
Potlick? Or what about...
What? I mean, Gaba. What is that?
Oh,
What is
Gaba.
a Gaba?
Yeah, Gaba. That's a... Yeah. Okay. All right. Gaba's a good one. Well, so Mon's, she's sitting on the... She's not sitting. She's out on the terrace outside of the chamber that, they stabbed her and threw her off and where they killed Benna. And she's looking out over on the mountainside, and she is not necessarily comfortable, even though she's succeeded in her mission. Obviously, she is kind of reminiscing about the pain she felt during that little tumble down that little hill over there. We call it that small hill. And she's also feeling a certain need for a certain substance. Rhymes with musk.
I know, Jeffrey. May I?
Yes.
Is it Husk?
Oh, ding, 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 ding. Survey says husk it is.
I like how she Joe's given her this sort of, she's still got like the pangs, and she knows she's never going to be like free of it. I think that's such a cool, because a lot of characters in other books would just be like, I used to be addicted to this, but now I'm better now. I got over it.
Yeah, I have zero problems now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the part where she knew that it would never quite fade, that need for husk. And so that's telling us she's made the decision to quit it, right? Cold turkey, done. But as Stolicus said, a good leader should never be comfortable. And the sun was climbing, all this stuff, looking at her land now, because now it's her land, her city, Great Talons, right?
Yeah.
And then we hear a certain Chamberlain, Your Excellency, and it's the same guy who had served Orso for 15 years. Somehow, this man survived the sack, and he just made a smooth transition between the two administrations here.
I respect it. I mean,
you gotta respect it. Getting knocked the hustle.
I like to think that also just had like a little panic room. And it's like, you've been so loyal, my Chamberlain. You hide in the panic room.
He like kisses him on the head like a little bop, a little boop. My love.
At least you will survive, my final child.
You made everybody bow so low.
I was sorry I spoke to you so harshly. I should have listened all along. If only they had shown more respect.
I love the idea that if there was a panic, that Orso would save his Chamberlain and not himself. He was so good at his job. Orso's like, no, you got to continue your lineage. We need more of you.
Look, man, I'm a gunner. They're fond of me no matter what, but you'll be fine.
I can't hide. They're coming for me specifically. But Manza had noted that she'd stolen his city after all, and his palace, some of his clothes. Why not his retainers, who knew their jobs better? So he's there to tell her that her ministers are here. Lord Rubin, I forget. Rubin, Chancellor Grullo, Chancellor Scavier, Colonel Volfier. So
you see him saying Volfier is cool, but Scavier?
Scavier.
Not cool.
Sounds scabby.
Yeah, Scavier it sounds dirty.
I don't like dirty.
No, I don't like dirty. And Mistress Vitari. And then he goes, can I inquire as to whether she has a specific title yet? And Manza's like, look, she handles those things that no one would have a specific title for, He goes, okay, sure. But I know it bothers him to no end that he needs like an actual title, right?
He's like, I'm trying to make a living here, and I'm very professional. I can't do that with names like that.
It's like he's the head butler in Downton Abbey. We need to maintain honor here.
That's exactly right.
A semblance of the order of things. And then I like how, so apparently the heavy doors to the chamber, instead of having lions like Orso did, they have serpents, fitting for the Serpent of Talons. And she had made sure that these doors were a good deal stronger, right? So we now learn that it's been 2 months since the last chapter. So, it's Vitari, Scavier and Grullo, Rubin, and Volfier. They all walk in. And so then Vitari notes that she hasn't gotten rid of the portrait of Orso gazing down the far hall. Is it the far wall? Sorry, the far wall. Is it down the corridor or is it in the chamber? I think it's in the chamber.
It's in the chamber.
It must be,
yeah.
It'd be kind of weird if you imagine you draw a huge self-portrait and you just put it in your hallway.
For sure. So, and I like this point where she goes, it reminds her of her victories and her defeats. It reminds her where she came from and that she has no intention of going back. Which is interesting, right? Because before Bera got stabbed, she loved serving for Duke Orso. She had a purpose. She had, this was a thing. And for her, after she helped him complete his mission, as far as she was concerned, she was going to retire. Or, just let's go do something else. We made all this money. But then, a certain little shit of a brother had other plans. And now she has no intention of going back because she literally cannot. Like, how you cannot take steps back after you killed the Grand Duke of Talons, right? You can't be like, all right, guess
especially when you were already crowned and everybody thinks that you murdered everyone to become like the leader, and they just go, actually, I'm done now. Peace out.
Bye. Anyway, so. And then Rubin, he looks around, and he looks sadly around. He goes, and it is a fine painting. Precious few remain. So we know somebody who misses the old administration. And Manza had notes that, the 1,000 swords are nothing if not thorough, which we know that to be sure, right? We had guys losing their minds over spoons and shit. So
you guys, I don't want to backtrack too much. This thought popped in my head. Yeah. You guys think that Manza can see her old farm, like, from where she's at in Farsis Armo?
I don't think so.
But she can see like most of the lands of Talons. I don't know. I always thought about it.
She said at the beginning that it was right on the river border between.
So she can see it.
Carlington and Etrusani.
Yeah.
You could pick it out, maybe.
I don't know, maybe not. But then again, you have to think about like perspective, right? Like even though her farm might be relatively close to Talon's from where she's at, I don't think she could really see it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, but Vittori then goes, well, all right, that's enough about that. What's the deets? Give me the 411. What's the news? And then Vittori goes, well, the news is good. If you love bad news, diddle dits.
You gotta start out with a joke. You gotta start with a joke. Every time.
Vittori is. I will say this last chapter here with Vittori, she is so unbelievably smug the whole time. She's like, "That's right, we won, we won. That's right." And Monta's like all contemplative. Monta's like, stroking her chin, trying to figure out, what's the best thing to do, or look how far I've come, looking off the balcony. It's good introspective. The whole time Vittori's like, yeah, you go, girl. The whole time.
Yeah.
So funny.
And so Vittori, she starts listing things off, right? Let's get into this. She goes that the Baelish have crossed the river 10,000 strong and invaded Osprian territory. That sucks for them guys, because no more Rogant. Muris has declared independence, I don't know from what, and gone to war with Sapani again, while Sartorius' sons fight each other in the streets of the city. So the most peaceful dude ever, now his sons are incredibly warlike, apparently. Viscerine remains leaderless, a plundered shadow of her former glory. There are apparently rumors of plague in Afoya and of a great fire in Nakante. And then Puranti is in uproar. And Muselia is in turmoil. Oh, Dio mio!
Yeah, in the audiobook, in fact, Vittori increasingly becomes more Italian and takes his own voice.
Really?
No, Jeffrey, I'm joking.
I know. Sorry. I wanted to add to it. And then
I do like how they do go over everything though, like kind of gives us an overview. It's a little exposition heavy, but like it's good. The time for it because it sets it up. Because of course Joe answers the questions that everybody else is thinking, like, well, what about this city? Obviously he didn't account for that one. Actually, he accounted for almost everything. He thought about like how each of them were dealing with their own problems.
Yeah, Joe, tell us what's going on, and Joe answers a lot. And then Rubin, he goes, oh, whoa, it's Styria. They say Roncat was right. The years of blood are at an end, but the years of fire are just beginning.
He's so dramatic, Rubin.
All right, I'm done with my Italian accents for the time being. He goes in Westport. No, I'm kidding. In Westport. He goes, in Westport, the holy men are proclaiming the end of the world. Listen, it's not good news down there in Styria right now. Shit has popped off. Thanks, Morveer. And so then Monza goes, like, that's not news. Anywhere that doesn't have problems, Vittori goes, here. She goes, I know Fonta's Armo had some light looting recently. More jokes from Vittori. And she goes, and Borletta. And Borletta, really? Just a year ago, she had thoroughly looted that city. And not to mention spiked that ruler's head above the gates, which was Duke Cantane, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then apparently Vittori tells her that his Duke Cantane's young niece had foiled a plot by nobles to depose her. And apparently she made such a great speech that they all threw aside their swords, fell to their knees, and begged forgiveness and swore their fealty. Which we kind of imagine that what really means is more heads on spikes. It never goes out of fashion, right?
Maybe not. I mean, you never know. I mean, sometimes Joe has these random characters. But probably she was smart enough to like pay them off beforehand or something.
Or had spies murder them when they slept. And then she goes, oh well, making them fall to their knees is a neat trick. However, she was able to do it. Blades can kill men, but only words can move them. And good neighbors are the surest shelter in a storm. That's something, I don't know, another Stolicus fucking thing.
Yeah, she's all about it. Go ahead, George.
Isn't that something that Rogon had said to her and said that she needed to
Nah.
read more widely?
I don't think it was something Oh shit! You know what? That's right. That's right. Rogan said to her at the Battle of Ospria, or the river or whatever the fuck. You're right about that. So she goes, "Do we have anything close to an ambassador?" And Rubin goes, "I guess." And then she goes, "Cool. Get one and send him to Borletta with a nice gift for the Duchess and offers of our sisterly affection." And Vittoria goes, "What? You sisterly affection? Didn't think that was a thing." She goes, "Look, I hear good neighbors are the surest shelter in a storm." So she repeats what she heard.
And I love the turn of phrase for Vittoria. Like she looked like she'd found a turd in her bed.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
You?
And you can picture exactly what that face would look like. So good on you, Joe.
It's like that.
Imagine yourself as Johnny Depp going into his room. I really like how
There's no way a 5-pound dog did that.
I really love the way like she references Stolicus and her thought process and all of this. Like it shows like she's off the husk, off the revenge high, back into where she's supposed to be. She's thinking very clearly. She is very on point here. I think that's why she quotes Stolicus and stuff all that so much, because she's like, it's how it's like exercises to her. She's making sure she's staying sharp, reminding herself what's important and what she should do in each situation. I think that's why she speaks in a certain way. She speaks here different in this chapter than she does almost the entire rest of the book, except for a few points where she's in the same kind of state of mind, like in the zone. But this is her all the time now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what he's trying to convey. But maybe I'm just reading into it too much. Who knows?
Maybe. But Rubin, he asks this. He goes, "Your Excellency, your reputation, might have suffered a little bit in recent times." And she, Manza brushes it off, but he goes, "But you are widely blamed for the death of King Rogant," which I hate that he got to be named king. Chancellor Sartorius and their comrades in the League of Nine. Your lone survival was suspicious. And if Syria were not so deeply divided, it would be undoubtedly united against her. And so then they're like, "Oh, we got to figure out someone to blame." And then Manza, Manza. She goes, "Let's put the blame where it belongs. This once. Caster Morvir poisoned the crown on Orso's instructions, no doubt. Let it be known as widely as possible." And then Rubin goes, "But, Your Excellency, no one knows the name." For great crimes, people must blame great figures. Oh, if Morvir could hear this, how he would die all over again, from a wound to the groin. And then Manza, she starts to take on the role of a like somebody on the pulpit, right? She goes, "It flates him then. Caster Morvir, death without a face. Most infamous of master poisoners. The greatest and most subtle murderer in history. A poisoner poet," as he has been referred to by himself most of the time. "A man who could slip into the best guarded building in Styria, murder its monarch and 4 of its greatest leaders, and away unnoticed like a night breeze. Who is safe from the very king of poisons? Why, I was lucky to escape with my life."
I love that Morvir gets what he really wanted in the end. He just didn't know it.
Yeah, I know. And she goes, and then Vitari goes, "It rubs me wrong to put fame on that piece of shit." And and then I like how Mons, whatever, they kind of go back and forth. But Vitari says that dead men make poor scapegoats. And then Manza goes, "No, breathe some life into him. Bills at every corner, proclaiming his guilt and offering 100,000 scales for his head." And then Volfir, he's getting more nervous the more Manza keeps talking this guy up. And he goes, but he is dead, right? and then Monza goes, no, yes, he's buried with the rest of them when we filled in the trenches. So that means obviously they're aware that he died by Casca. And she goes, which means that we'll never have to pay. Fuck it, throw it up to 200,000. This way we look rich too.
I love that. I love this subterfuge from Monza. I think it's just such an interesting character development where she's gone from. She seems to really be embracing the whole leader thing.
Yeah, Grand Duchess thing. Absolutely. And Monza goes, oh yeah, by the way, Vittoria, I heard you unpicked a little revolt, by the way. And Vittoria goes, I wouldn't insult the word revolt by applying it to these guys. These guys were amateurs. They put up papers advertising this.
These guys probably just like trying to start a union or something. Murders them.
Yeah. It's like they weren't even trying to start something. That's hilarious.
They just wanted to start up a meetup, So then they're like, they deserve the death penalty just for stupidity. But then Rubin comes in and goes, or maybe exile, a little mercy makes you look just virtuous and powerful. And he goes, she goes, how about this? Find them heavily, publish their names, parade them naked before the Senate House, and then set them free. And they're all like, free? She goes, look, how virtuous and powerful does that make me, right? If I punish them harshly, then I give their friends a wrong to avenge. If I spare them, we make resistance seem absurd. What? Please, get out of here. So just watch them. You said yourself that they're stupid. If they plan more treason, then we can hang them for it then.
Good idea.
Yeah.
No, it's actually perfect because I think that a lot of people would just be like, yeah, kill him, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. But Orso ran into the problem of doing that over and over again to the point where he started having issues. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, not bad. And then she asks about how are the markets doing, and so Scavier is like, oh, that they're very busy. That apparently their markets are a booming since all the craziness is going on in the rest of Styria, right? And their granaries are actually, doing pretty good. They're good enough that the harvest should see them through the winter without any riots.
It's crazy how much that switch, like all of a sudden, like Talons went from being. It makes sense for Talons because Talons is only like an upheaval for like a month, and then it went back to normal basically. Mm-hmm. Whereas everywhere else has been fucked up for so long.
Yeah, especially with the chaos of all their leaders dying instantly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then Grullo notes that a lot of the land towards Massalia still lies fallow. That farmers were driven out when Rogon's conquering forces, came through to forage. Then the Thousand Swords, you already know, they devastated the area. So Monza goes, all right, well, is the city full of like beggars and stuff? Yep, beggars and refugees. And she goes, all right, so give the land away, right, to anyone who can yield a crop, and then pay us a tax. Farmland without farmers is nothing more than mud. And Monza, as a farmer herself growing up, I guess she wants the land to be utilized. She sees the value in that, obviously. Mm-hmm. And then I like how she goes, hey, Volfier, buddy, oh boy, oh pal, you're kind of quiet. What's going on? And then I know he goes, fucking Introsane! He's like, what? Relax, bro. What happened?
I like the idea that he's just some old man. He doesn't know how to contain himself. He's just sitting there like, he's not listening to anything. He's like, I'm just so I'm so angry. And they're like, what's wrong? And as soon as they ask him, he's like, I can't hold it anymore. I'm just so mad.
Right. Apparently, those bastards had more trouble on the border. 3 farms burned out. The farmers went missing. Then the patrol who went looking for them was shot at from the woods. 1 man killed, 2 wounded, the rest pursued, but mindful of your orders left off at the border. So Vittori goes, that they're testing Monza. Angry because they were Orso's first allies. And that they had given up everything in his cause and hoped to reap a golden harvest when he became king. That's what Grullo chimed in with. And, Volfier, he's angry because he says that they think that the Talonese are too weak to stop them. And so Manza asks him straight up, like, are we? And he says that they have 3,000 foot and 1,000 horse, aka cavalry. And they're all armed, drilled, all good men who've seen action before and ready to fight. They will prove it. And so she asks him about what about the Etruscanese?
Etrusani?
No, but like in the plural form, it says, "What about the Etruscanese?" That's what it says.
It is a mouthful. It is a mouthful.
It's a lot.
It's a knees.
I would have done the Etruscanese, but whatever. I'm not the author here. And Vittori goes, bluster. Second-rate power at the best of times, and their best was long ago. Again, Vittori with the snappy snaps.
Sass.
Mm-hmm. And so apparently the Talon's army has the advantage in numbers and quality. And Rubine goes, undeniably, we have just cause, a brief sortie across the border to teach a sharp lesson. A brief sortie across the border to teach a sharp lesson. But then Scavier, interjects and goes, look, we have funds for a more significant campaign. I have some ideas for financial demands that might leave us more enriched, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. And Manza goes, Benna would have counseled caution, but Benna, to think out a plan, and also to put her in a tough spot, because that's what fucking Benna did all the time. But Benna dead. Benna be dead. And Manza has always been her whole thing has been about moving fast, striking hard, and worrying about the plans afterwards, right? So she goes, get your men ready to march, Volfier. I got a mind to take Etrusani under siege, baby. And they're all like,
yeah, what?
And then she goes, she tells Rubine to chill out, that she respects his knowledge of the law, but when it comes to war's her department, and there's nothing worse than half measures. And he goes, but what about making allies? And then she goes, no one wants an ally that can't protect what's theirs. We need to demonstrate our resolve, or the wolves will be sniffing around our carcass. We need to bring these dogs and Etrusani to heel. And so now everybody, now they're about it. So then I guess is that, then she asks, besides she's going to go polish up her armor, is there anything else? And they say, no, they're quiet. She goes, all right, take out, peace out. And they all leave. And, she would like to put aside the sword and make things grow the way she wanted to a long time ago, but no battle is ever the last. And, get out your plow by all means. Farron's wrote, but keep a dagger handy just in case. And she's looking down the map, and her left hand, creeps down to her stomach to rest on it. And it's starting to swell.
Oh.
3 months now since her blood had come. Ruh-roh! I mean, she's a preggers. And it could be either Rogan's child or maybe Shivers.
It Shivers.
Huh?
It's Shivers' child.
We don't know. A dead man's child, or a killer, kings, or beggars. Uh-oh. But all that matters is that it's hers, right? So now, what the fuck? So she's pregnant. She's looking at Orso's crown. She puts it away. She used the jewels that were in it to, pay for more men and more steel, and then leading to more gold and stuff like that. And so if since Rogan had died unmarried without heirs, his child, even his bastard, would have a great claim on his titles, right? Grand Duke of Austria, King of Styria, even. He had worn the crown for a brief moment. So then
I like how this child isn't even born yet, and she's like, I could use this for political reasons.
Well, she's got to look ahead like that. She has to,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's Manza thinking in this way too. I also like how at the same time she is kind of in a weird way thinking, how can I use this child? But also she has to. But I more like how she's thinking about, how to make money and how to raise an army. She's gonna do things like Orso did, and it's not because she never actually despised Orso himself. She was just mad that he betrayed her, and especially now that she knows that he betrayed her for perfectly valid reasons, she's chilling out. She's using the things that she learned from him and the things she learned from others to make things work.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
while she's going over this in her head, the Chamberlain, comes back in and he goes, Your Excellency, we have another person. And he's like, it's a representative from the banking house of Valentin Balk. Ruh-roh.
Bum, bum,
What those
bum.
fuckers again?
And Monza knew that they had been coming. So, all right, here we go. Send them in. And then she goes, the guy walks in. She goes, for a man from an institution that could buy and sell nations, he didn't look like much. Younger than she expected, with a curly head of hair, a pleasant manner, and an easy grin. That worried her more than ever. As Vittorio once wrote, the bitterest enemies come with the sweetest smiles. And then this guy goes, Your Excellency. And he bowed almost as low as the Chamberlain, which is a feat, I will say. And it's Sulfur, Yoru Sulfur at your service. And she notices that he has, two different color eyes, one blue, one green. Oh, wow, look at that. And he represents the proud institution of the banking house of Valentin Balk. And she jokes that sorry about the decor. A lot of damage was done in the assault, and things are a lot more functional than they were in Orso's day. So he doesn't care. Functional suits him perfectly. He's actually here to discuss business, to offer her, in fact, the very full backing of his employers.
What a great deal.
What a fantastic deal.
And, it always goes well for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. And she goes, well, I understand you came often to Grand Duke Orso to offer him your full backing. Yep. And she goes, and now I've murdered him and stolen his place. You come to me. And he goes, yep. And she she goes, your backing molds easily to new situations. He goes, we're a bank. Every change is an opportunity.
I love that too. It's so accurate. Like,
yeah, for real. That's it. You gotta turn with the tides, baby. And so what does he have to offer? Well, he has money to offer. Money to fund armies, money to fund public works, to return glory to Talons in Styria, even to maybe money to render her palace less functional. And then, they can also lend political assistance. Good neighbors, are the surest shelter in a storm. Interesting choice of words there.
I love it. I love that. She's like, I don't like that. I like how, and I read this, it's like, I don't like that either. It just makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, so soon after she just used them, And then he continues on, Valentin Balk have deep roots in the Union, extremely deep. I do not doubt we can arrange an alliance between you and the High King. And she goes, an alliance? He's married to Orso's daughter, even though his sons may have a claim on my dukedom, better claim than mine, actually, some might say. And Sulfur goes, we strive to work with what we find before we strive to change it. For the right leader with the right backing, Styria is there for the taking, and Valentin Balk was just to stand with the victor. And then she goes, even though I broke into your offices in Westport and murdered your guy Malthus. And he goes, well, your success in that venture only demonstrates your great resourcefulness.
It's like, it's like whenever you go to a job interview and you think it might be a good opportunity, but they seem a little too desperate to have you. So you start saying things like, I quit my last job because I took a shit on my boss's car. They're like, that only shows how much you actually cared about the integrity of the company, not about your boss's opinion. It's like, so you could say nothing wrong here.
Yeah, for real. And then she goes, strange that you come here making such an offer. And he goes, why? And he goes, well, just yesterday, I had a very similar visit from a representative of the Prophet of Gurkel offering his backing. And he goes, did he send? Ishri, dun dun dun. And he goes, you cannot trust
the east wind.
And she goes, but I can trust you because you smile so sweetly. My brother did the same, and he lied with every goddamn breath. And he goes, look, the truth then. You're probably aware that the Prophet and my employers stand on opposite sides of a great struggle. And he says you would not wish to find yourself on the wrong side. She goes, look, I'm not sure I want to find myself on either side. But don't worry. I told Ishri that the price of her support was too high. Now tell me, Master Sulfur, what's the price of Valentin Balk for their help? And he goes, no more than what's fair, interest on their loans, preference in their business dealings and those of their partners and associates, that you refuse to deal with the Gurkish and their allies, that you act when my employers request in concert with the forces of the Union. And she goes, only whenever your employers request? And he goes, perhaps once or twice in your lifetime. And she goes, or perhaps more as you see fit. You want me to sell talents to you and thank you for the privilege. You want me to kneel at your vault door and beg for favors. And he's like, you're being over dramatic. And she goes, I do not kneel, Master Sulfur. And he goes, interesting choice of words. And then he goes, may I be candid? She goes, yeah. And he goes, you're new to the ways of power. Everyone must kneel to someone. If you are too proud to take our hand of friendship, others will. She goes, all right, yeah, good luck. May your friendship bring them better results than it brought to Orso. I think Ishri was going to start looking for people in Paranti. Maybe you should go to Aspria first, or Sapani, or Afoya. Sure, you'll find somebody in Styria to take your money. We're famous for our whores. And Sulfur goes, well, Talons owes great debts to my employers. She goes, Orso owed great debts to them. Ask him for your money back. I can give you a trowel to dig for him, at the bottom of the cliff. And he's still smiling, Sulfur. He goes, it would be a shame if you left us no choice but to yield to the rage of Queen Therese and let her seek vengeance for her father's death. And she goes, vengeance. She knows all about that. I don't startle, Master Sulfur. I'm sure Therese talks a big war, but the Union is spread thin. They have enemies both north and south and inside their borders. If she wants my little chair, then she could come and fight me for it. But she thinks that, High King August Majesty, High King Zhao, has other worries. And then he's starting to smile some more now. He goes, I do not think you realize the dangers that fill the dark corners of the world. Oh. And she notes that there's no good humor in his grin now. Why, even as we speak, you sit here, alone. And it became a hungry leer filled with sharp white teeth. So very, very fragile. Gulp. And then
it's funny that Jorah's just like, well, I'm just going to eat you then.
He's like, oh, you're not going to surrender? Well, then, I guess I'll just consume you.
This is literally plan B. Oh, it didn't work in 5 minutes, so I'm going to kill you.
I'll make some manza tartar. And then she goes, alone. And then we hear, you are mistaken. Our boy, Shanked, had walked up in complete silence right at Sulfur's shoulder. And Sulfur turns her around. Like, he spun around. What the fuck? And he stood frozen. And he's like, you. And Shanked is like, yes. And he goes, I thought. And Shanked is like, no. And then Sulfur goes,
yes. And then Sulfur Yoru goes, no. And then Shank says, yes. And then Yoru says, no. And then Shank says, yes.
And then
it's actually a page long of that.
Yeah. And then Shank goes, yes, this is my doing. I had my hand in it. And Sulfur looks at Monza. Go ahead.
Sorry. I like how Shank still isn't like super serious. He's like kind of like slouching and shrugging, and he's just like, that's how life is. Even though it's just like a super serious moment.
Yeah. And then Sulfur looks at Monza, and then he looks back over at Shank, and he goes, our master is not going to whatever. But then Shank interjects and says, your master? I have none, remember? I told him I was done, and I always give a warning when I can. And here's your warning. Get gone. If you return, you will not find me in a warning mood. Go back and tell him you serve. Tell him I used to serve. We do not kneel. And Sulfur is like, okay. And he's starting to smile again. He's like, all right, die standing then. And he turns to Monza, gives her that graceful bow once again. he says, "You will hear from us," and he just struts easily from the room. So okay, so Sulfur isn't gonna just try to attack Monza with Shanked around, but there's like seems to be like, oh snaps, what happened here?
I was gonna say, are you gonna gloss over the fact that Shankt is also used to work for Baez?
Yeah, no, we
As I
need to
said,
talk. We need to talk about that. Obviously, I want to get through to the chapter, but we need to talk
okay.
about that. And then Shanked, she goes. Shank makes a joke, like you mentioned. He goes, he took it well, in his own way. And Monza goes, it seems like there's a lot you're kind of not telling me. And he goes,
Shank's just like, yes.
yes. She goes, who are you really? And he goes, I have been many things: an apprentice, an ambassador, a solver of stubborn problems, and a maker of them. Today, I am a man who settles other people's scores. Jesus. She wanted riddles. She could just visit a fortune teller. She goes, okay, you basically knew him, right? And he goes, yeah, we had the same master long ago. And she goes, you worked for a bank? And he goes, in a manner of speaking, they do more than count coins. And she goes, okay. And now he goes, now I don't kneel. And so she goes, well, why have you helped me? That's what Monza says to Shank. And he goes, because they made Orso, and I break whatever they have made. So she goes, revenge. And he goes, look, it's not the best of motives, but it's good outcomes. Good outcomes can flow from evil motives still, and the other way about. And so he goes, look, of course, you brought the Duke of Talons all his victories. So Shankt was watching her, thinking to weaken him by killing her initially. And so it happened that Orso tried to kill her himself. And so he goes, let me fix her, and then try to convince her to kill Orso and take his place. But he underestimated her determination. She slipped away, and she's trying to kill Orso anyway. She goes, and I took his place. Yes. So he goes, why try to dam a river that flows the way you want it to flow? Let's say we helped each other. We all have our scores to settle. And she goes, in settling your scores, it seems you have made me some powerful enemies. And he's like, calm down. In settling yours, it seems you plunged Styria into chaos. And she goes, well, it wasn't my intention. He goes, look, once you choose to open the box, your intentions mean nothing.
Oh.
And the box is yawning wide as a grave right now, and he wonders what will spill from it. Will righteous leaders rise to light the way to a brighter, fairer Styria? Or will we get ruthless shadows of old tyrants treading circles of the bloody footsteps of the past? What will you be? She goes, I suppose we'll see. And he goes, I suppose we will. And he leaves her alone. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, what do we want to rate this? And before we talk about the revelation about Shanked and Sulfur and Baez.
I'm going to give this one a 6 and a knuckle. We know that Joe likes to do his climaxes really a lot before the end of the book, and I think this is probably the one where it's the closest to the end. So I like the fact that we get 2 months later. I think that's a significant time jump for Joe as well. Yeah. 2 months is a fairly big. We get to see how everything's turned out. We get a catch up on how Monza's doing with the new fucking political situation. I like to see how that all works out, and of course, Yoru and Shankt's little confrontation there. It's always good to see a little bit more lore there.
Yeah. I think that my vote is probably going to be a 7 and a knuckle. I think it's a good wrap up. I think we're inside Monza's head. I'm like a good deal amount to realize kind of where she's at. Like she's better, for lack of a better term, but she's still, she's not like she's different. Yeah, it's not like it's nothing happened to her. She's different. She's better. She's still got her problems. But she's also, she's a lot further than a lot of characters are inside this universe in terms of both like in every facet of her life. So, and the Year of Sulfur thing, I remember like for the longest time before With Smooth Crowds came out, there's so many people acting like obviously Shank must be the most powerful eater ever. Period. Because otherwise, Year of Sulfur would have definitely would have attacked him here. I think Year of Sulfur was just being diplomatic, and it was too much of a risk to get into a fight right there. Because I think that Year of Sulfur would have had at least a chance. Because otherwise, the same could be said about Shank. Why didn't Shank just kill him? Baez made him. Why didn't he break him?
Exactly.
Definitely,
I think
yeah.
didn't Yoru need the divider to kill any eaters anyway?
No,
Let's
but
see.
with the divider, he was unstoppable with the two eaters. But
Okay.
you know what I mean. But I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he could have handled himself. He's an eater himself. He's been around since Baez. Like he was an apprentice of Baez, like back in the old days, right?
Yep.
You know, they keep like you always get the description that that he's younger than they expected. So that means this motherfucker must be old just because of the constantly commenting on his youth. Dude's got to be old as shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's definitely old.
Yeah. So I'm
It
gonna.
also means too, like maybe Shanked and Yoru they weren't like Shank didn't come after Yoru, like they were in the same circle for some time. So
Mhm.
Yeah, they definitely seem more than just co-workers.
Yeah, I will give this a 7 out of 9 fingers. I enjoyed there's a lot of exposition. I enjoyed like seeing like how Monza has now like kind of like sublime, not just easily slipped into being a leader, right? Um, and yeah, we see that like she's gonna lead talents into some kind of prosperous future or hellish future. She's pregnant, so that has ramifications for the future, right? Big time. We see Vitari not necessarily, moving around from job to job. Now she's settled. Now she's got a position, high-ranking position. Go girl. And then we get some like really cool, like interesting tidbits with Shanked, Sulfur, and Baez. Now we see that Shanked was helping Monza all along because of just the fact that Orso was Baez's puppet, right? Um, it's interesting to me because a lot of people have a lot of theories about Shanked, right? One prevalent one, which we don't need to go too deep into, is that he is a former king of the Union. Shares a same first name as one of them.
I mean, I don't think we see his first name in this book at all.
Yeah, Cass.
I think.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh
yes.
yeah.
Yep.
That's a
But
good point. Yeah.
Yeah, Cass.
I always am against it, but simply because Joe's had multiple times where characters have the same name. Casimir is obviously a fairly common. I mean, obviously people are gonna name their kids after Casimir the King, just like people named their kids like Harad or
Harad.
yeah. So just saying.
You're no
It,
fun
I
at
also.
this.
it's a cool idea. I just feel like it's a bit of a stretch. That's all.
Interesting. Okay.
I always find it funny that Casimir is meant to be like the most famous king or one of the most famous kings of the Union, but there's not like a painting around of him somewhere where someone will go,
Yeah,
that guy kind
there
of
you
looks
go.
like.
Yeah.
There you go. Interestingly enough, no painting, right? So we'll move on to our next segment, which is best meme of the week. Georgie boy, as a it's a you ticket away.
So this week we've got Crates of Bigfoot, who has done a couple of the more recent meme of the weeks, which is good. They've been quite active on House of the Meme Maker, and I always enjoy seeing their stuff. It's good. And this is that meme from that Civil War film that I didn't see, but I saw the trailer, so I get this. And it's like, we all think the standalones are great, okay? It's like, yeah, but which one's the best? And there's a huge argument down in the comments there. Of course there is.
I think
I love seeing people argue about it.
yeah, it's great too because like I think that the standalones are all good in different ways. Like obviously, Red Country is like a western, completely different feeling to most of the other series. The heroes is like essential to the whole rest of the story, and is like a war book. You have to read it if you're gonna transition over, otherwise you're gonna miss a lot of stuff. And then it's also you guys know what I'm trying to say.
No.
It's written really well. Okay?
Okay.
It's written excellently, George.
Oh, you meant literary.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Literary. Thank you.
It's a literary accomplishment.
It's this best one, I think, in that sense. Investigative Cold is the best standalone, like as an actual standalone. You don't need to read anything else to read it.
I actually agree. There's loads of people down in the comments here saying, Best So Cold is probably the best fantasy book I've ever read, or even best. This person says the best thing they've ever read, which is fair enough. Yeah,
it's Trouble with Peace, obviously. I mean, that's kind of a weird thing.
Trouble Peace. Well,
so yeah, thank you very much, Crates of Bigfoot, for that argument inciting meme.
Oh man, yeah, thank you for that. And so we'll jump right into our second and third chapter read-throughs back to back. We'll start off this next chapter with all change, and we are in the perspective of our homie, our dice rolling, number counting, something, conversation stopping,
criminal
friendly. And he's with Casca, and Casca apparently is telling him, like, you don't need to do this. And Friendly's like, I know, but he wants to do it. And Casca's like, oh my God, but if only I could make you see the world out here. Infinite possibilities. But he's been making Friendly trying to see it that way from where, since they left the village where the 1,000 swords were camped. But he hated all these possibilities. There's too many. He likes fewer possibilities. So... he hates change, because Casca's like, the world changes each day, a new face, a different challenge. A man never knows what each moment will bring, and Friendly hates that, right? And different men take different pleasures, and then Casca goes, to lock yourself away from life is to admit defeat. And what is he talking about? But Friendly shrugs. Defeat had never scared him. He had no pride. And then Casca goes, I need you desperately. A good sergeant is worth 3 generals. And then they're just quiet as they're trotting their horses out along the track. And then Casca goes, damn it, I have made every effort. And Friendly does appreciate it. And then Casca asks,
which is maybe what is like the only time that we hear him go, like, thank you, I appreciate it, or whatever.
And Casca confirms with him that, are you resolved to do this? And Friendly goes, yep. And then
I love to see that Casca is like doing every effort to try to stop him from leaving. Yeah. He goes from being like, "Oh, buddy, you're just giving up on yourself," and he's like, "No, it's not gonna work." And he's like, "Well, I need you. I need you. I love you." He's like, "I don't care."
I want to go home.
Yeah. So apparently, Friendly's worst fear is that they might not let him back in until Monza had given him a document with the seal for the authorities of Macelia that it detailed his convictions as an accomplice in the murders of Gaba, Malthus, Prince Ariel, General Ganmark, Faithful Carpi, Prince Foscar, and Grand Duke Orso of Talons, and sentenced him to imprisonment for life, or until such time as he desired to be released. Friendly was confident that would be never. So he wants to go to prison.
He wants to go back to safety. Oh.
Yeah.
And I love how he's like a kid who went out and explored the world and realized he was dog shit and just wants to go back home. It's so sad. But It's also great too because he's like, this is the most sincere he is. I mean, he's always sincere, but
he's honest.
He's honest, and he's also he's like, oh, I like him getting that gift from Monza was the greatest gift ever. It's just so funny. He's like, she's, and it also speaks to Monza's character. Monza gave him that, and didn't make a fuss about it or anything. Mm-hmm. But it's so funny. I want to go back to prison, please.
And then
I just think. Sorry, Jeff.
No, go ahead.
I'd find it funny. It's like these are really serious crimes, fucking big political assassinations and stuff. I find it funny if he turned up and they just killed him for it.
Well, his crime, his sentence was to be in prison for life. So
I don't. It'd just be funny.
It'd be funny.
It would be really funny
if they just poked him with the spear. Get out of here. Casca goes. He tells him that he will miss him. And Friendly returns. He goes, I will miss you. And it's like, oh. And he goes, but not so much that I can persuade you to remain in my company. Friendly goes, no. It's just straight.
He's not gonna do it. He is set. He's got his mind set. He wants to go back home. He's tired of all this crazy shit. He appreciates appreciates Casca for being his friend, and he appreciates Mom's were giving him the stuff, but he's done. He's retiring.
He's retiring. That's it, baby. And he's excited, right? Of going up these tracks. He knows the number of trees on the road. He knows the number of bricks in the archway. He knows the number of iron studs on the doors. And then as the track curve to face the gate, he notices that the doors are open, and he frowns at this, because what is more wrong than a prison than its doors being open and unlocked? That's not part of the routine. Hello. And so he walks slowly to the gate, and he looks inside to see a man sitting on the steps of the hut, a ragged-looking man of the hut where the guards should have been watching. And he's by himself, and he's like, "Oh, I've done nothing, I swear." And then Friendly just goes, "I have a letter signed by the Grand Duchess of Talons. I am to be taken into custody at once." And the man kind of goes, "I'm no guard. I'm just using the hut to sleep in." Friendly goes,
just a homeless guy.
Yeah, so I was like, where are the guards? And he says they're gone. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, with the riots in Massalia, if the guy figured that no one was paying them, so they all just up and left. And then Friendly goes, "Oh no." He goes, "What about the prisoners?" He goes, "Oh, they all got free. Most of them ran, escaped right away, but some of them waited and then left." And then Friendly goes, "Oh no." And then he goes, "I guess they didn't know where to, but in the end they got hungry, so now they're gone too. And there's no one here." And Friendly's like, "No one?" And he goes, "Yep, just me, buddy." And then Friendly is just devastated. No more would each day, each month, each year be measured out into neat little parcels. The great clock had stopped. All change. And he feels Casca's hand on his shoulder, and Casca says, "The world is all change. We all would like to go back, but the past is done. We must look forwards. We must change ourselves, however painful it may be, or be left behind." So it seemed for Friendly. So he turns his back, gets back on his horse, and he says, "Look forwards." But he feels like he's starting to feel panic. And he goes, "Forwards all depends on which way you face, but which way should I face now?" And then Casca goes, "Well, making that choice is what life is, but can I make a suggestion?" And then Friendly's like, "Please," because he doesn't know what to do at this point. He goes, and Casca says, "I will be taking the 1,000 swords, or those who haven't retired after plundering Fontezarmo, down towards Viscerine to help me press my claims on Celier's old throne, his entirely righteous claims. A title promised him by the king of Syria, after all. The city's in chaos, and they need someone to show them the way." And Friendly goes, "You?" And he goes, "And you, my friend, you too. Nothing is more valuable to the ruler than an honest man who can count." And then Friendly looks one last time back at the gatehouse. He goes, "Maybe they'll start it up again one day." And then Casca goes, "Maybe they will, but in the meantime, I can make a lot of use of your talents." He goes, "I have entirely rightful claims. Born in the city, there'll be work there, lots of work." And then Friendly kind of goes, "Are you drunk?"
Oh my god. Is that ludicrously, my friend? Quite ludicrously, sir.
He's like, "Why do you think I've been able to give you this wisdom? I'm obviously thinking perfectly clear. More clear I have than forever." He is... Casca is so funny here. Like, he's got some of the best monologues in the whole series. It's always got an asterisk on it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And he's like, "This is the good stuff, the grape spirit." And then he goes, "Change, Friendly. Change is a funny thing. Sometimes men change for the better. Sometimes men change for the worse. And often, very often, given time and opportunity, they change right back." And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do we rate that chapter? It's a quick one. I know.
I like it. I'm going to give this one a 6 as well. I like Friendly's. I hate the fact that he doesn't get what he wants, but he probably gets what's better for him in the end, I think. And the fact that Casca's just gone right back to being a drunkard.
And just hammered. Absolutely hammered.
Yeah, I think it's also... I totally agree. I think I give it the exact same score, because there's something so funny about Friendly going back to prison, and then he's also he's the one person in this book who doesn't really get what he wants at the end. He's just left out to dry. I mean, obviously Casca's there for him, but it's kind of sad that he has been stuck down to just having to be with Casca, doesn't have any other choice. But, it's also ironic, too, that Casca has this really, really good monologue about life and change and all this. To one, he's drunk, and two, it's to Friendly, who does not care about all that. He just needs to figure out what to do next. What would you rate it, Jeff?
What was the score you gave it again?
You gave it a 7, didn't you, George?
6.
Oh, 6, my bad.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this chapter. It's just so short. So please, this is not meant to be a bad score. You know this. It's 4 out of 9 fingers because it's so short. It's so short. And
what do you like about it?
It's fucking hilarious. And I wanted Friendly to actually be I wanted him to find happiness, and for him finding happiness was being in prison. I mean, I guess, do you, boo-boo. But I wanted him to find fulfillment in life. I wanted him to, make something out of himself. And hopefully he could do something now with Casca. Maybe he can at least keep track of Casca's accounts or something. I don't know. Let's hope for the best. But 4 out of 9 because it's so short, So we'll move on to our final chapter read-through. And this one is Happy Endings, which is the last chapter of the bookies. And we start off from the perspective of our boy Shivers. Apparently he's in a jail cell. And he can see outside the little window in the cell that they had set up a gallows just outside, right? And so they had been killing people left and right. He notices like, oh wow, they made something. They made a machine for killing people too now. Look at that. This must have been what Morvir meant about science all those months ago.
Age of advancement.
Yep. And so they had hanged a few men after the fortress fell. Some of the 1,000 swords as well, because they must have broke some rules. But for some time now, it's been 7 weeks or 8. You didn't count the days, but no one has swung off the gallows for some time. And he wondered if it would be the morning that they would hang him. And sometimes he wished he hadn't betrayed Manza, but he's saying only because it came out the way that it had, not because he regretted of anything he actually had done. So. Seems like Shivers had made a full turn here. He knows that his father wouldn't have approved of it probably. His brother would have sneered and said, "Yeah, he expected no better." No doubt that Rudd Three Trees would have shook his head and said that justice would come for it. But Three Trees was dead and justice with him. Shivers, his brother, had been a bastard with the hero's face, and his sneers don't mean anything anymore. And his father's also back to the mud, and he had left Shivers to figure things out on his own on how to, the way of doing things. So much for the good men and the right thing too.
That's pretty cold outlook.
Yeah.
But I mean, we kind of already saw it coming. That's the way he's been acting for quite some time now.
For sure. And from time to time, he had wondered whether Carla Danider had gotten away from the mess that his failure must have left her in, or whether the cripple, aka Glocta, caught up with her. And he wondered if Manza actually got to kill Orso or not. He wondered who that bastard was that came out of nowhere and knocked him across the hall. Shanked. That's hilarious. But he goes, but that's how life is. You don't always get the answer. And he was up at the window looking out when he heard the keys rattling down the corridor. And he's like, now it's time. So, he hops off down the pallet, a little touchy because his leg is still smarting from when Friendly had stabbed him. And he looks and he's a little taken back because he hadn't thought that she would come here herself, but he's glad she had. Manza came down there. She looked well, not so gaunt as she used to, not so hardy, the clean, smooth, sleek, and rich like royalty. Hard to believe she had anything to ever do with him. And he goes, look at you now, Grand Duchess Monscaro. And, he's like, how'd you get out of this so lucky? She goes, well, so fine. She goes, luck. And he goes, well, there you go. Never had so much of it as myself. They opened the gate to the jail. 2 of the guards came in. They put the manacles around his wrists. He didn't bother to fight them. He was like, all right, whatever. And he goes, it's quite the trip we've been on, isn't it? And she goes, yeah. you lost yourself, Shivers. And he goes, nope, I found myself. You're going to hang me now? And she looks at him for a moment, right? Blue eyes and cold. Like nothing he would do would surprise her. She goes, no. And so he got surprised, almost disappointed. He goes, okay, what then? She goes, you can go. And he goes, what? He goes, yeah, you're free. And he goes, I didn't think you still cared. She goes, who said I ever did? This is for me, not for you.
Go off, queen.
Go off. I've had enough vengeance. And Shivers is like, all right, well, who'd have thought it? The Butcher of Capril, the Snake of Talons, the good woman all along. Thought mercy and cowardice were the same. She goes, mark me down as a coward then. But don't ever come back here. My cowardice has limits. And she takes the ring off her finger, the one with the blood red ruby that Benna had given her, and tossed it to him at his feet. And she told him to take it. He goes, all right, I'm not too proud anymore. And Monza's already turning and walking away. She goes, and he goes, is that how this ends then? That's the ending? And she goes, you think you deserve something better? And that's it. She's gone.
And then all of the Shivers fans cried out against Monza there.
No, and then
bitch.
But also, I like to think that that's again Joe just talking to us through these characters. Like that's the ending. If you don't like it, fuck off.
Well, and then Shivers, he puts the ring on his finger, and he actually responds. He goes, actually, something worse. And then one of the guards goes, move, then bastard. And then he goes, oh, don't you worry, I'm on my way. I've had enough of Styria. And he's smiling now as he's out of the darkness of the tunnel and on that bridge leading away from Fontesarmo. He's taking in a long breath of cold, free air. He reckoned he came out all right, Maybe he lost an eye. Maybe he's not richer than when he stepped off the boat, but he was a better man of that, no doubt. A wiser man. Used to be he was his own worst enemy. Now he's just everyone else's. So he's looking forward to getting back to the north, finding some work that suited him. And you know what? Maybe, just maybe, he'd make a stop in Ufrith, pay his old friend Vasula a little visit. And he set off down the mountain, away from the fortress, boots crunching in the gray dust, and behind him, the sunrise was the color of bad blood. And that's the end of that chapter. And that's the end of that book. And I hope you all will notice that last sentence was a callback to the very first sentence of the very first part of the book when her and Benna were going up to Fontesarmo.
The whole ending part here with Shivers and Monza, I don't want to get too crazy with whoa, the parallels, but it's really, really well done. She gives Shivers her ring, right, or Benna's ring. Because she's parting with that part of herself. She's done with Benna. She's actually moved on. She's one of the few characters who's actually able to do that. She hands Shivers the ring, who is symbolically her Benna, or in many ways was. She gives him the ring. He is a shit person at this point, and has said that, no, I found myself. I figured it all out. I know who I am and all that. Mm-hmm. And she's just sad. She stays up on the mountain. Her and Benna went up there together, and now only Benna, the bad part of her, is leaving the mountain at the very end of the story. I thought that was really, really well good. That was really, really well done.
That's a good way of putting it.
Very good way. Very good way. And once again, I like how Monza comes to get Shivers out of it, whatever scrap he's in at the time.
Yeah, that too.
At the beginning of the book, our man was fucked up, homeless, hungry. And at the end of the book, he was fucked up, homeless, in prison, hungry. And so,
and they actually switched roles too, in and of themselves, who they want to be and what their goals are.
Yeah, their outlook and everything. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, what do you rate the chapter?
What do you rate the chapter, Jeffrey?
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Again, short chapter. Not a lot happened. We just got Shivers is alive, and then he. Monza spares him, gives him the ring. There's a lot there. I mean, and you were talking about, Harrison, with the symbolism, right, and the parallels and stuff. I'll give it a 5 out of 9. Again, only lower just because it's 3 pages. You know what I mean? So that's that's it. Doesn't mean it's a bad chapter. It's just it's short. That's all.
All right.
Go ahead. What are you rating it?
I think I'm gonna rate it 7 and a knuckle.
Ooh.
I think the symbolism. I think I really love that symbolism. I saw it the first time I read the book. and it still hits home really well. It just lines up really, really well for me for that kind of side of things.
Mhm.
So I think 7.5 for what I kind of was talking about earlier. It's a good ending to a book, and you like happy
absolutely.
endings. One of the few books, honestly, that everybody gets what they want except for Friendly.
As close as what you can get. And it's good we know better for Friendly than he knows, all right? He doesn't need to be in prison.
What? He would have been happy there, Jeffrey.
Shut up. George, what about you?
I wouldn't say a 7 and a knuckle as well. I like you said, Harrison, the symbolism is really good. I really like it's just a well written chapter in general as well. I love the whole monologue with Shivers, and that it would have been very easy for him to go, "Oh no, I didn't mean it." Like, I really regret it now. But he's like, "No, I only regret it because I'm in prison."
But she still lets him go even after that. That's what's crazy about it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 7 and a knuckle from me.
Alrighty. So let's move on to our final segment, which is our character spot. Boys, who could we be highlighting in these chapters, in this reading? Who?
Well, Jeffrey, I'm pretty sure we've done Vitari. That'd be the only other person we could do. Everybody else has been covered.
Yeah,
and spoken about.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Well, there is this one guy. Oh, that's right. The guard, Shivers outside his gate there, his door. He comes out and he says, "Move, bastard!" I must say, Pacey's line delivery, it really got me going. I want him to have more characters like that. I like it.
Did it remind you of Ludacris? Move, bitch! Get out the way! Get out the way, bitch! All right, yeah. No.
I just like how commanding he was. Okay, it just was exciting.
Pretty commanding. I don't think he gets to tell a lot of prisoners, "Move, motherfucker!" Right?
Yeah, he probably just sits down there all day. You got to see the Duchess of Duchess Monscara Mercado, and you got to be like, "Yeah, that's right. Check me out. Move, you prison scum."
Imagine if he was really nervous. Like, oh fuck, it's the Grand Duchess. Don't fumble the fucking manacles when I'm putting them on.
I do think it's.
He's probably like, "Oh fuck, she's hot too. Fuck."
I feel like this is one of the few characters that Joe it's got to the end of the book and just had to have "Oh, move, you bastard!" Here's his line, but he's one of the few characters in the whole
series
that really actually doesn't do anything.
For real.
He has no character at all. We're totally we're grasping at
straws here, man.
We're desperate, okay?
Oh man, we wanted to highlight him at least, for our next character spot next week's episode when we do our spoiler review. We'll choose somebody better, I promise you. But that's all we got. That's all we got, folks. I'm so sorry. But yeah, thank you for that, boys. Thank you for that. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed our coverage of Best Served Cold, and we're gonna tidy it all up with the spoiler review, like I mentioned, for next week's episode. So make sure you tune in for that. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this podcast is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means oh so much.
Join us next week as we do a special review episode for the book.
Make sure you follow us on all of our social media, and we have a website at circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. And please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
I've had my fellas.